Hi, welcome to the first episode of Interlinking Insights. No, it's not another podcast series from WebEngage, but an extension to the State of Attention Marketing podcast hosted by Ankur Gattani. In this episode, we've curated insights from two D2C startups in India. One is famous for selling ACV tablets and another for featuring on Shark Tank India. Let's discover the entrepreneurial journeys of Rishubh from Plix and Jatan from Perfora.
Me and my co-founder Akash, right, had two different businesses in the plant-based space. While our visions were similar, we were competing, and we were like, it doesn't make sense to compete, right? And we both were struggling in terms of resources. We were like bootstrap new age founders with no prior experience in building a company before, right? Young guys in like our mid-20s, and we were struggling with resources. Like hiring talent was a big issue and all. So we decided, instead of competing, right, why don't we join together? And me and Akash are very different personalities. He was focused more on finance and ops, very meticulous with financial acumen. And I was a pure marketing guy, right? I'm the guy who's like Jugado, Indian, will love to get into Indian psyche, understand what works, right? And then build a company, right? So we have two very different personalities, and we realized this is a great fit, right?
Sure.
And we should merge our businesses and then scale it, right? And we decided to do that. And since then, it's been like from 0 to 1, we went to 1 to 100. Like 1 and 1 made 11 for us.
Very cool.
And we scaled the business like phenomenally once, me and Akash.
So who had the Plix brand, and did that survive, or did you have both own your own brands, and how did that play out?
So in fact, we both own different brands. But what we realized was that I think we had a brand called Ulina, which we had kept, by the way, when we merged also. And we put it into the Plix ecosystem because we really Plix was more associated with the plant-based name, right? So, and I think our numbers are fairly similar only. That wasn't the concern. It was more that we believe that Plix is a brand associated more with the consumer behavior, right? Because Plix, the plant fix, is associated with plant-based. And then we had Ulina. And over a period of time, since we merged the brands also, you would usually think your revenue would drop, right? Our revenue didn't drop. Combined revenue is yet similar. And after we merged the brands, in fact, we were able to get the same number of revenue. And slowly, we moved away and dissolved Ulina. And today it's only Plix.
Fair.
During the last 5 odd years, during my Akiva and Vadam stint, one thing was very clear. I love consumer brands. I love the journey of building a consumer brand. I love being a part of it. I love solving for consumers. So it was but natural for me to start thinking, what can I do? How can I add value to the ecosystem? How can I come up with something that, probably millions of consumers will love it? And so that was a thought process. I wanted to do a consumer brand. I was understanding and trying to think of white spaces. I was trying to think of what is that problem that still needs to be solved. In so many conversations with my co-founder Tushar, where we had a long spreadsheet of different categories and different problem statements. Is acne as a problem solved, right? Skincare is solved because skincare is a lot of cluttered. But is there a brand that is the go-to acne removal brand, for example? Or, is there a brand that can help you with your both protein and beauty as a supplement, right? At an intersection of both, or is there a brand that is doing some very interesting work in sexual wellness, which is a niche and a category which has some amount of taboo, but it's an interesting category, right? So we spoke about a lot of categories, and in one conversation we started thinking about and talking about oral care, and we realized that where both Tushar and I are very, like the context is both Tushar and I are very active new age consumers, right? So we would pick up the newest brand on the shelf, or, we would sort of go out and shop on Amazon or a D2C website and see, okay, what are they doing different? Let's understand more about the product. Let's see what the founder story is. Let's see what they're writing on the packaging. And then we would have, internal conversation, ye chalega, ye nahi chalega. इनसे नहीं हो पाएगा यार ये तो मचा देंगे. So all of that happened, and during our oral care conversation, we realized we as consumers had upgraded pretty much everything that we consume today on an everyday level to a relatively newer age brand, right? So like we're both big coffee consumers, but we don't drink Nescafe, right? We probably drink a Sleepy Owl or a Blue Tokai or a Third Wave, etc. And if we use a face wash, we don't use a Nivea. We probably use a Man company or a Bombay shaving company or any new age brand, whether that's a minimalist, etc. Right?
Sure.
And that was true across, right? Whether that's personal care or food, to some extent, even apparel or sneakers. And we realized, why is oral care not being upgraded, right? Why are the same set of products being used that have been and that we've been using for the last 2 decades or so? Why are there no new brands bringing out a new narrative for the younger audience, which is, people in the age bracket of 18 to 40, right? And that was the broad thought, the macro level thought. And then we started going deeper into the category to understand, are the products good enough? And then we realized the products are shit, right? The design is shit. The narrative is shit. It's the same old 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this product, right? And I think, like, we spoke to about 400 odd consumers, people who we felt were part of our target audience, to understand if this is a problem that exists in our mind or it's a slightly larger problem.
And one big problem we realized was weight management today, right?
Okay.
So TAM is huge in terms of numbers, right? We very clearly realized there are a lot of people looking at it, but we also realized that there weren't great, tasty solutions to solve weight management, right? And what we came across is a couple of products like our apple cider vinegar liquid today, right? And we looked at it in terms of product. It was selling a lot on Amazon. The numbers spoke about it, right? We saw brands doing significantly well, selling thousands of units a day. But if you fundamentally taste the product, right, the liquid is something you just cannot consume, right? And that is something we realize is a problem to solve today. So what we did is we took apple cider vinegar liquid, and we made it into an effervescence tablet, made it into a super amazing, yummy drink, and that did phenomenally well for us. Right? And that's where the ethos got built. Is we realized this is PMF, right? Now you've taken a problem which Indian consumers have, right, which is weight loss, and there's another problem is they cannot consume this liquid because it doesn't taste great. Let's make it tasty. And let's give it to them in a much more convenient way, right? Today you can carry an effervescence tablet in your pocket, travel all across the world you want, take it to office, and conveniently have it. It's just, all you need is water.
Yeah.
And it tastes great. It's something you want to consume. And that was the PMF we realized, and the product just scaled, right? It scaled phenomenally well with massive customer love. And so we realized this is what we need to do, right? We need to take traditional ingredients which don't taste good, make them fun, interesting, and something you want to consume. And that's from that ethos we started launching a lot of products. So we've taken ashwagandha and launched it in an effervescence format, which is a masala soda. We've got a caffeine effervescence today. Instead of you don't want to consume caffeine or black coffee, it doesn't taste good. It's a fizzy grade cola which you can consume. A lot of these ingredients done in weight management, in beauty. And that's been our product ethos and logic, right? We'll take traditional ingredients, make them absolutely fun and tasty, and give it to the consumer in a very economic point. So if you even consume a Plix ACV, right, today it's like 20 rupees a serving. And that's how much you would pay for any carbonated beverage.
Pretty much.
But now you're getting no sugar, you're getting to control your appetite, which is what you want, right? So that's the roadmap. And with that, we've been able to scale. So that's talking more of on the product journey, right? And how we decided to evolve from maybe a plant-based protein-only company to talk about more bigger problems and solve customer needs. Also, what we realized very soon is we're going after a lot more millennial consumers. That's our TG, right? 20 to 45. People who have just started earning, want to look and feel good, right?
We started going deeper into the category to understand, are the products good enough? And then we realized the products are shit, right? The design is shit. The narrative is shit. It's the same old 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this product, right? And I think, like, we spoke to about 400 odd consumers, people who we felt were part of our target audience, to understand if this is a problem that exists in our mind or it's a slightly larger problem. The insights from those consumer conversations were very interesting, where people said in their head, they treat oral care equivalent to a skincare or a hair care. But when it comes to their buying behavior or purchasing behavior, that lens does not apply, because the same consumer would spend anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes deciding upon the kind of serum that they want to buy for their skin or for their hair, but they would not even buy their toothpaste or toothbrush themselves, right? Which was a very different buying behavior. So we felt, this is broken and we need to fix this. We need to come up with products that are better, more functional, more cleaner, well designed, so that Indian consumers can really start, investing in good oral care.
Let's zoom in into how ACV became the market leader from Plix that it is today. Because I'm sure it's not like it was easy. I'm sure there was competition. I'm sure there were challenges with respect to distribution scale up, brand establishment over scale. So tell us a bit more about the journey.
So for us, building AC obviously wasn't what do you call, like journey which was like 0 to 1, right? Or it was just we launched AC and it catapulted. Right? There was a lot of
Yeah.
work which went into the product. We also really realize is it's very important for a brand to look at AOV. So if you look at our website, right, we don't sell single selling SKUs, right? We'll not sell you a pack of around 350. We focus on AOV because we also want you to see the health benefits of it. So when we first launched the apple cider vinegar, we very soon realized that the unit economics don't make sense at 350 rupee price point. So what we did is we pushed it into a pack of 4, right? Where consumers can then actually see the benefits of it.
But doesn't it hurt the conversion rates?
No.
Because you will want people to try the slightly smaller price point, and that would.
So the logic here is we are a health and wellness brand, right? Now when someone uses the product for 10 days, right? And if you give him a small packet, so what's going to happen is he's not going to be able to see the true benefits of it, right? So while it might impact a little bit on conversion rates, it's a very strong call we took is for him to see benefits, he needs to build a habit of consuming the product, which needs to be for a month or 2 months, right? So let him buy a pack of 4. It's all right. But the customer who buys a pack of 4 will be able to see the true benefits of the product and then will stay in a longer life cycle, right? I don't want people to buy the product and drop off, right? That's not what the customer want to invest in. I want someone who's there in for the long run, right?
Again, we did another round of consumer interactions to understand what is the problem. Because if I was speaking to someone like you and I don't know whether you use a manual toothbrush or electric toothbrush, but like I'll take the broad assumption that you use a manual toothbrush. I would ask, hey, Ankur, you're well-to-do, you use an iPhone, you use a MacBook, but why manual toothbrush? And you would come up with answers like, yeah, Jatan, samajh nahi aata, it's too heavy. I don't know how the technology works. I don't want to get into the hassles of, if it goes, if it malfunctions, who's going to be responsible? There's no service center out there. Where will I get it replaced or get the product picked up, etc. So the value chain, the ecosystem is broken, and I'm not comfortable spending 1,000, 1,500 rupees on a toothbrush because I don't understand the concept, right? I don't understand what is the difference between a manual and electric, right? So these were the some of insights that we got, and we thought, okay, let's make it closer to what a consumer requires or is expecting, right? So we really worked on the design. We worked with an industrial designer to help us carve out initial designs of, what a sleek and beautiful looking electric toothbrush should look like and would look like. Then we worked on the technology of it because most electric toothbrushes that are very heavy and bulky in design are also rechargeable, right? And that is a challenge because people who are constantly traveling, they don't want to carry their toothbrush charge alongside, right? They wake up one day and they say, this is not charged. What do I do now? Right? So we figured out, okay, there could be a different mechanism of, powering the toothbrush, which is a AAA battery. So we worked on that technology. And then we started doing prototyping with our manufacturer. There were quite a few iterations in terms of how the technology functions and what all changes are required to be done to make a workable prototype. We got about, 15, 20 samples. We distributed it in our friends and family. People used it. Some of them liked it. Some of them didn't like it. People who didn't like it, we also understood what were their reasons. And we realized, okay, it's a perception, right? That you've been using a manual toothbrush and you can't change overnight, right? So, and my classic case for that would be driving a manual versus an automatic, right? It takes a while to get to that transition, right?
Yeah.
So I think we realized maybe the other 10 customers who didn't like the product, they love the design, they love the technology, they love the experience, but they're just not comfortable using it, and they'll get there as and when more awareness and adoption happens in people around closer to them in their vicinity start using the product. So that's how we started out. We worked with a design studio who did our initial set of, brand architecture and packaging. They also, like, as part of our design agency, we also gave them the mandate that, okay, hey, you will also have to speak with 50 customers and we'll set up those interviews and calls from our network and understand what a consumer is expecting and come up with a brand design and language that will do justice to the audience that we are going after.
I think we have quite a scaled up retention team who make sure that these journeys are extremely personalized because that's what we believe is the difference, right? If I send you a vanilla content saying, take for example, have fit and slim to lose weight, right? I don't think it's going to move it. But if I tell you that Ankur has consumed ACV for 2 months along with a healthy lifestyle and has been able to lose 5 kgs of weight, and he was in fact able to accelerate his weight loss by adding fit and slim to it, right? Now that's like you believe in it because you put a name to it, you put a photo to it, and you've spoken about his journey. So that's what is really works. And
You
that's
just
what's
mentioned
great.
you have a fairly evolved retention team. At what point in your journey did you start this whole effort around user engagement, retention, cross-sells?
I think this was, started quite late, right? And
Mhm.
I think we didn't start it till we were a decently scaled up brand.
When you say decently scaled up, any numbers that you can put to it?
So I think we started working on retention maybe when we were around like a 3 crore to 4 crore
A
ARR,
month.
right? And I think that's very
ARR.
late. I think we lost a lot of opportunity and free ROAS and better retention metrics if we had done it a lot earlier.
Okay, so that's one mistake that you'd recommend people be very wary of. Start
Yeah.
early.
Start early because I think the learning curve in retention is huge. And you might think it's easy, right? But it's not plug and play, right? It takes, so I think for us, it took maybe 15 months, right, to really get it right and get all the tech in play, the integrations in play. It's not easy, right? And I would really recommend if there is a solution, right, which just plugs it in and you can like a switch on, switch off, right? But it's not that. There is like so much work to be done in terms of templates and this and that. Oh my God.
And just the understanding of data and content together, right? Because you said personalization is very key. At the same time, you're using a lot of user-generated content. So for a marketer to be looking at these two sides of the equation sometimes can also be hard. So help us understand the composition of this retention team that you've now put together.
So we have a CGO, who's Kritika,
Sure.
who's I think phenomenal at good at retention. So she's built out the retention at Westside, right, which has great metrics. And then she's used a lot of those journeys to build a lot of the team out here also. So we have Kritika who spearheads growth for us, and we have around 4-member team in that who works on retention. Everyone has different capabilities.
Sure.
Someone works with Clever Tap. Then there is WhatsApp automation where we work with Live Chat. Then also a lot of the part is sourcing the content, right?
Sure.
Which is, so we have one liaison who only works with the content team.
Okay.
And for Plix, content is like the most important thing, right? It's our right to win today. We have like maybe a 20 to 25 member content production team,
Okay.
right? And that's where all the magic happens. So we need one person who's always working, listening, getting the right content, and then people like the person who's responsible for Clever Tab will plug it in, for Lime Chat will plug it in, for email, they'll plug it in. So that's how it works. So we have at least a 5-member team in retention today. So the logic is we do catch-ups, right? As a key metric, the team, what worked for Plix also is we track ROAS on a daily level, right?
Okay.
And we track what works, what doesn't work. So what we do is the moment something is doing better than average, right? That information is passed on. So coordination is very critical, right? To be honest, the amount of communication we have, right? Like, just take a guess of the number of WhatsApp groups I have with my co-founder. Just to give you a level, like, take a guess.
Okay, now that you say it probably runs into what, at least double digits?
Triple digits.
Wow.
We're like maybe 170.
Different WhatsApp channels, so to speak.
Just communicate, right?
Yeah.
So that's the amount of communication is the key, right? And we keep, so the moment there are like maybe 10 to 12 groups in retention we'll have, right? And so the moment something does well with the content team, there is one retention, there's one obviously silo retention, there's one with the founder, there's one, not too many, but then the one with the content team, they will share the data, right? That this ad is done well, right? We need more of this. Or this is done poorly, the CTR is poor, right? So then let's not do this communication anymore. So that communication is very clear, right? They explain and tell them what works, what doesn't work. Until you don't get that right? Otherwise, and teams start working in silos, it's redundant. So they really need to know what's working.
So super high touch,
Very
sort
high
of back and
touch,
forth in terms of knowing what's working, what's not working, and putting that back into the
So the
action.
retention team tracks the ROAS, tracks the metrics. We have one MIS guy only crunching numbers on retention.
But they're tracking ROAS, which is typically an acquisition side of the equation, or how?
No, we look at ROAS even in retention.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything, so for us, everything has to be maths, right? I tell it comes down from one of our investors, no English, only maths. I'm not joking.
Fair enough. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
When did you start thinking about it? What are the first steps that you took around putting the people together, maybe putting the tech stack, maybe putting the data layers together? Let's just run through that bit a little.
Sure. So I think we started thinking about it in about 2-3 months when we launched.
Okay.
And then since the team that we have is a young team who thinks on first principles, try and solve problems on first principle thinking. In terms of team, for the longest time, we had only one person who was managing both the acquisition and retention. Of course, she had the help of folks at WebEngage to navigate our way through retention. But now we have a team of about 4 people where one person is looking at data, one person is looking at communication, one person is looking at what kind of offers to run and what channels to push out what communication. So that's a 3 people team spearheaded by one person who looks at the entire P&L. So that's what the team setup looks like.
And from a data gathering and organizing and unifying perspective, given that you do intend to have a long-term play with your own platform, that's where your larger emphasis is going to be, is fully sorted. And at what point did you start capturing, or I don't know if you yet integrate, if you have a customer care ecosystem, if you have a chat ecosystem, if you have a chatbot ecosystem, is all of this coming together?
Yeah. So all of this is coming together, and we invested on all these things fairly earlier on. First 6 months, very limited resources, but we still had a
Sure.
chatbot, a WhatsApp interface where people could sort of DM us. One person would look after all the incoming, text. I would personally look after all the emails and Insta DMs that we would get. And then we had another person who would look after all the phone calls that were coming in. It was a team of 4 people. So 3 people have already explained what they were doing,
Sure.
apart from doing their other
Additional jobs,
jobs. Today, we have a customer experience team of about 4-5 people, and they look at emails, they look at WhatsApp, they look at phone calls. We also do outbound calls to people who have abandoned their checkout to understand what is the challenge. Is this a price issue? Is this you're just not made up your mind? Can we help you out with understanding the product better?
Is this sampling, or is this everyone?
This is on abandoned checkout, right? So
some people just to get a sense of it, or
no,
everyone?
For everyone.
Okay.
So we've built that, and we're still building that entire resource pool. Yeah.
So in terms of staffing, you put in the right kind of people there. Is this a set of people who've already done this before? Are they mature practitioners, or more like first principle thinkers who can learn fast and adapt fast?
A combination of both. But we are personally very inclined towards people who are first principle thinkers and people who want to do something interesting and unique, and they bring the right attitude in terms of building a company. For example, I'll tell you, the first person that we got on board for our customer experience team is a qualified lawyer.
Okay.
She's practicing law and she's not enjoying that domain, and she had reached out via network. Hey, Jatan, I love what you're building, but I'm not really happy in my job. I think it sucks. And I want to do something interesting. I want to be part of the brand building journey. Is there an opening? Is there an opportunity, right? And of course, she's very well spoken, can write really well, can argue well if required. So that was the first strategic hire for the customer experience team. Someone that we hired second came, had worked at Zomato, then had worked in sales, then had worked in operations. And then we got him on board because we felt he was bringing the right attitude towards solving customer problems, right? Irrespective of what his work experience was. So we got him on board. Today, we have a team where it's a mix, where people have a very unique and interesting background, which is not relevant to what they're doing, but they're doing a great job at it. And they're people who come from this industry and they're learning and adapting to our work culture and our practices, because unlike a large company, we operate in a very unique way.
Awesome. So, the reason I bring up all of these conversations around building an enduring business very, very tightly knit with number-driven approaches is because we've seen retention to be pretty much critical in an existential fashion for D2C companies. And if you don't understand this timely enough and you invest in the wrong things, probably burn your money in the wrong places, it is almost fatal. I mean, it's in fact fatal for a large number of companies there, right? So help us understand, Rishubh, a little bit about how the whole venture capital changed your life, or if it did not, because you started off as a bootstrapper who was also a Marwadi in the mindset. So you wanted to be very tightly controlling a lot of aspects of how money is getting spent and how it's bringing value back. And couple that with the obsession / need to grow at a certain aggressive pace, right? How does the whole staying sensible thing work here?
So I'll just talk on the importance of retention, right? First, I think you need to understand that retention is key, right? Because while there is not an infinite pool of customers fitting your PMF, your cohort, right? And once you've acquired them, it is very important to make sure that they stay onto the brand, right? They keep buying, because the moment a customer is acquired, you've spent enough money of CAC on like acquiring them, right? Most probably you've already made money on them on the first order, and most brands would have most probably burnt money also on it, right? So it's very important that you're able to then, over the next 1 year or 6 months, make sure you milk the customer enough to get like a positive unit economics.
Sure.
And that is where your brand will become sustainable and you'll be able to then spend a lot more. At the moment, take for example, what I think is why retention is the key, right? Take for example, you're spending 500 rupees on CAC, right? And you're break-even at 500, right? On the first order, right? Then you cannot scale your business more and you will not be able to increase the marketing budgets more.
Sure.
Because the moment you increase the market, your CAC will increase. But now, take for example, your retention is amazing, right? And he's buying twice more. So his LTV is maybe like, 1500 or you, right? 500 is the cost of the product, so it's 1500. And assuming you have 50% gross margins, everything cut together, you're making 750 bucks on it, on that customer. So now you have 250 rupees more to spend on that guy, right?
Yeah.
So 250 rupees more per customer and you can spend. That's the CAC you can increase this thing by, right? From 500 to 750.
That's the efficient reaction.
And then your budgets can go from 50 lakhs to 1 crore because now this thing. And then if you optimize more and you get him to spend maybe 2,000, then you can go from 75 lakhs of budget to maybe 1.5 crores. And the moment you increase your marketing spends, right, your visibility will increase. The moment your visibility increases, your brand will grow. And that's how you'll be able to scale sustainably. So that's where I believe retention is the key, right? The moment you are able to get that right, you'll be able to increase more on your CAC.
So how does the attention span now split between retention-led growth, which is a more sustainable way to grow, versus aggressive acquisition-fueled growth, which is typically the venture capital bad way to grow? How do you see that interplay?
So I think both things are required. For us at Plix, right? In fact, even this is something, while you would hear a lot of VCs say grow at any cost, I think though that conversation is now changing to profitability. While it wasn't that 3 years later, our VCs were very clear that we need positive unit economics.
Sure.
We do not want to be growing a business where you're spending more to acquire, you're burning money on a customer, right? So fundamentally, that's something even they were aligned on. And as a founder, me and Akash, since we were bootstrapped, we were aligned on. So we were very clear that we will only grow as much as the business can sustain it.
Sure.
And we will not make assumptions on what my LTV will be, right? So LTV hai, and that will be the CAC max of it, right? In fact, as the business has grown, we evolved to make sure that we break even at least on the first order, right? So those things are the key fundamentals to build a business. It is very important to make sure that acquisition is only driven to a matter of fact we are not burning capital on that customer, and LTV is not assumed, right? You wait to get the real LTV of the customer, maybe if it's 6 months or 1 year, and then decide it. And then after that, retention is key. Today for Plix, right, our retention numbers are very good, right? They're strong. In fact, I think it helps that the journey is nutraceuticals where someone will want to consistently keep having the product, right?
Sure.
So that definitely helps. But I think that's one of the reasons, right? When you have already a chunk of customers every month who bought back a little, the stress on acquisition is a lot lesser, right? And when the stress on acquisition is lesser, they make much more informed choices, right? Because they don't have the stress to perform because maybe 40-50% of the revenue is already being taken care of.
Yeah.
So that really helps a lot.
Which brings us to the favorite topic of my conversation, which is retention. So you're really thinking repeats and cross-sells and upsells pretty much from day zero, or when did this become a part of your active conversations?
I think we have thought about it pretty much from day zero, but we've not implemented it on day zero. And there's a reason for it. The reason is very simple in our head. Let's say if we have, 10,000 customers, which is a fairly small pool of people, and you know how early stage brands are, limited resources, limited number of people, limited number of hours. So should we be focusing on taking that 10,000 pool of customers to 20,000 over the next 3 months? Or should we be focusing on, making that out of those 10,000, getting those 2,000 people repeat? In our head, till we achieved a certain scale, retention would not make sense in an absolute number. It wouldn't. Yeah, it won't move the needle in absolute sense, right? Percentage wise, if I were to show that number to investors, 10,000 customers, 2,000 people, 3,000 people are repeating, great. But for me, the meaningful number is 1 lakh customers, even 10% or 12% are repeating. That's 4x of the smaller base, right?
Okay.
So we've started doing retention activities pretty much in the last 6 months, which is about an year and a half into our journey, when we realized now we have enough number of customers who know about the brand, who have bought the brand, who are excited about the brand, and how can we start, how can we sort of start doing things so that they start transacting more, right?
Sure.
In the month 2, month 3, month 4, month 6, and
would you be able to put a, let's say, revenue scale and number of customers scale to the whole retention effort that you started 6 months ago? You said enough, but quantitatively, is this like whatever, 100,000, 500,000?
I think for us that number was about 100,000
Sure.
in terms of customers, right? Till the time we didn't have 100,000 customers, we felt it won't make a lot of
There are
sense.
other priorities to chase in some
Yeah.
sense. Obviously, there's a founder level, the mindshare is the biggest asset, so to speak. And from a revenue scale perspective, this would have been in the ballpark of
About 1 crore.
a month.
Yeah.
So if you look at our website, right, we don't sell single selling SKUs, right? We'll not sell you a pack of around 350. We focus on AOV because we also want you to see the health benefits of it. So when we first launched the apple cider vinegar, we very soon realized that the unit economics don't make sense at 350 rupee price point. So what we did is we pushed it into a pack of 4, right? Where consumers can then actually see the benefits of it.
But doesn't it hurt the conversion rates?
No.
Because you will want people to try the slightly smaller price point, and that would.
So the logic here is we are a health and wellness brand, right? Now when someone uses the product for 10 days, right? And if you give him a small packet, so what's going to happen is he's not going to be able to see the true benefits of it, right? So while it might impact a little bit on conversion rates, it's a very strong call we took is for him to see benefits, he needs to build a habit of consuming the product, which needs to be for a month or 2 months, right? So let him buy a pack of 4. It's all right. But the customer who buys a pack of 4 will be able to see the true benefits of the product and then will stay in a longer life cycle, right? I don't want people to buy the product and drop off, right? That's not what the customer I want to invest in. I want someone who's there in for the long run, right?
But there's 2 parts to it. One is, of course, if he's bought it, doesn't necessarily translate into consumption because people feel that they bought it, they might as well consume. And the other lens is the repeat window. After, let's say, 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, the whole consumer psyche changes in terms of how they perceive the brand and if they're still attached to the brand in some fashion or not. So how do you look at this interplay?
So the 2 things we do is we usually want the customers to say a longer journey, right? But also what we do is to ensure the customer is connected, we do a lot of content.
Sure.
So there are multiple touch points with the customer, right? So one, we break our entire content play into like transactional, educational, and then it's revenue, right? So one is transactional, is basically your basics where you make sure the customer gets the product delivered, the entire journey which is there. But what we also do is we start an informational play, right? Expectation setting. You need to consume this for 60 days. You need to consume this like 60 days. I think it's 90 days, I think.
Sure.
Right? So that he knows that he has to buy the second pack and third pack, right? To improve retention, how to consume the product. Then what we'll do is then once the educational is done, we'll then push it into revenue, where we'll also start upselling him different products and we'll upsell them the product there in the same 30-day journey.
Split between, I mean, transactional, of course, is very event triggered or action triggered.
Correct.
But the educational versus revenue, is there a conceptual split that you have in your mind on how to do this?
Yeah. So we have what we do is we don't introduce revenue till the customers tried the product for 7 days, consumed it, believed in it. Till then, we push a lot of content play, right? Which is to inform the customer of the brand, our deep expertise in it, how the product is so good, tasty, customer testimonials on how people have consumed the product and seen changes, right? We also, in the communication, we'll put in that how customers have bought multiple other products of Plix and seen the impact, right? So he realizes the benefits of consuming multiple products of Plix. So and then the revenue comes in.
A lot of social proof which should go into CRM channels. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Could you zoom into this a little bit? So you said testimonial of using other products that will go into this guy's communication.
Correct.
What would this look like? Is an email from Plix where I'm an ACV customer, but this is going to talk to me about the Slim Shake. Is that what we're saying?
I think UGC is one of the keys, right? A lot of D2C brands. It's very important to show the customer what other consumers have gone through, right? And how they've been able to transform themselves, the results they've seen, what are the expectations they have. So that is a very key factor and we leverage that a lot.
Okay, so just from a perspective of the fact that the large recruiter is ACV as a starting point of the product, and then the customer journey starts from there very similarly. So the pathway from that to the next purchase that will happen, will that be very different or will that be somewhat similar? How does the path move across different product lines?
So every product has its own journey created, specific, personalized, based on the problem the consumer is looking to solve. And we define it.
But are you able to articulate that? Because the guy is buying the same product. So what are the different problems he might be trying to solve?
So it depends, right? So take, for example, a person, we articulate a journey based on product. So someone who's buying an ACV, he will have a specific journey, he will have a specific communication. Someone who buys maybe a Garcinia Cambogia, which is a different product of us, he will have maybe a slightly tweaked journey, while I think the ethos overall will stay the same. There will be some tweaks in the communication. So based on the products he buys, we've built a very different journey for each. And the UGCs will change because the UGCs now need to talk about how Garcinia Kombucha helps somebody else. So that has been personalized.
We are probably the second largest most followed oral care brand in the country, right?
Most
And
followed, you mean on social
On
channels?
Instagram,
Okay.
right? On Instagram.
It's a
because-
conscious investment you made towards brand?
Yeah. So that's a conscious investment that we have made. Ki we will scale that up. We will build that community. We will invest in content. We will try to change that perception, right? We're the only brand today that does limited edition drops where people wait for a few months to sort of buy that new special, pattern toothbrush or a special flavor of toothpaste or a special flavor of chewing gum, etc. And on top of it, like on the brand side, we've not only done we've done a few things on social media and Instagram, but we've also invested heavily in emails, right? So we are one of the brands that's known for writing very detailed and human oriented emails, right? So via emails, we don't try and sell our products. What we try and sell is our brand, right?
Sure.
We try and tell people, okay, what is going behind the scenes. For example, if you're a consumer of our brand, you would want to know out of curiosity that who is Jatan's inspiration, right? Or who's Tushard's inspiration? Who does he look up to? Or, how does he spend his Sunday? If someone's joined our team and relocated from, let's say, Northeast, why did he make that move? And how's the experience for him settling into a new city? Recently I wrote a newsletter which got a fair bit of, appreciation, where we for the first time a couple of months ago, we had launched dual color electric toothbrushes, right? So the brush head is of a different color and the handle is of a different color. And the honest story behind that inspiration was that I'm a Sikh. My father wears a turban, and I've seen him growing up while I was at my parents' place earlier on, that he would sort of very specifically match the color of his turban and his shirt, right? And do the contrast, etc. So that was an inspiration that can we do something in terms of colors, right? And people loved that story. That so honest, so raw on how did you go about figuring out new colors for your electric toothbrush. And that emailer had images and pictures of my father wearing turban with his shirt, and coincidentally it was similar colors to what the toothbrush colors are, right? So people just love that authentic, honest way of storytelling. And that's how ROAS gets improved, right? Because you read that newsletter, it's a 7-8 minute newsletter, and then you realize, okay, hey, this is beautiful. Let me share it across in my network. You forward it to 10 odd people. They'll take a look at the brand, and I don't have to spend on paid advertising to acquire 2 another customers out of the 10 that you forwarded already.
That wraps up our first episode of Interlinking Insights from the State of Retention Marketing podcast. We trust you found these snippets intriguing, and we value your feedback. So you're welcome to send your suggestions and appreciations to sormpodcast@webengage.com. Stay tuned for more compelling content ahead.